Everyone, this is Leah Kate.
Hello.
Hit single is 10 Things I Hate About You, which I'm sure you've been asked this about a million times, but it is not based on the movie from 1999 with Julia Stiles that we all love.
I wish it was, that's a sick idea, and it's inspired me to go, take movie titles and turn them into songs, but it had nothing to do with the movie. It was actually, I was just trying to get over this guy, and I could only remember the great things about the relationship, even though most of it was not great. And one day I was like, all right, time to move on. We're gonna write down everything we hate about him. It's very simple. There's so much, we just need to remind ourselves sometimes. So I just started writing this list, and it was much larger than 10 things initially. And then I was like, wait, this is kind of a cool idea. How could I turn this into a song? And then I just started figuring out the things I hated the most about him, and I was like, oh, 10 Things I Hate About You. And then after I was like, that's a fire movie, but it had nothing to do with it. But I will be ripping movie titles in the future.
So this was all a part of the healing process for you.
It was.
That's pretty odd. Did you just come up with that yourself, or did you go see a therapist and you're like, hey, you should do this to try to help get through that?
My therapist gave me some tips, and maybe it was somehow inspired by her advice she gave me, but it was me just being like, I need to just remember the things he would do.
Right.
To because you really do kind of remember the good things only sometimes,
Yeah, I'm that way too.
Yeah.
I just want to only remember the good stuff and then just sort of tuck away.
100%.
Yeah, the
bad
negativity.
stuff.
But you have to process that.
You have to, and reminders help you. You're like, oh yeah, he did that one time. That was so rude. How could I ever like that person? Sometimes you just write it out. It's like, okay.
Yeah, because you want to make sure that you don't repeat yourself.
100%.
Yeah, and that's one of the most important things you can learn is the things that you don't like in a relationship, or
totally,
in a boyfriend or someone you're dating. Period. And you need to be able to recognize that stuff early on. So the next guy that you decide to spend more time with, I'm sure you'll be you got sort of your mental checklist now. Uh-oh, this is not good, or that's not good. Do you think that it's probably going to be a bit harder to date you from here on out?
I think when reflecting on the 10 things I hate about you guy, I can spot a red flag immediately, because I had every red flag in front of me. So now I'm like, yep, okay, no, bye. This is, yeah. So
we don't have to talk about all of them, but what would be the biggest red flag that a guy can show pretty early on?
Something that really bothered me was if a guy just didn't answer. If you're texting on a Friday night and then they didn't answer until a Sunday and they're like, oh, sorry, I fell asleep. I'm like, you didn't fall asleep. I feel like no one's a bad, or I'm a bad texter. You're not a bad texter. You know that my text came through and you probably saw it. You just didn't want to respond, which is fine. But don't call yourself a bad texter, that kind of annoys me.
That makes a really good point, because when you're dating, especially when you're in that new phase too, and you see a text come through from somebody that you're really into, you're not gonna let that text sit.
Right? You reply.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a very good one. I hope we all learned. They're not texting right away.
Yeah, then cut, you're out.
So you moved to New York City.
I did.
But you're an LA girl. You're from LA.
Born and raised in LA, and I was just kind of sick of it, and I feel like I don't know, I didn't have a lot of support to do music there, and I just need to start over and leave. And so I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm moving to New York. They're like, great, we're not helping you, but if that's what you want to do, go for it. I was like, thank you very much. I moved to New York for a few years, and I just moved back. I was gonna say I moved back right before the pandemic, last week. That was 2 years ago. So I moved back 2 years ago, but I did live in New York for a couple years.
Okay, yeah, because when I read that, I'm just like, well, that's interesting, because LA, and at least in my mind, the record labels are there. There's lots of other musicians. There's a whole club scene, music scene. Anything you want is in LA. But yet you felt it necessary to go to New York. I guess just because you kind of grew up within it, you needed. Do you think that you needed this new sort of a new location just to kind of to just try to operate in and see if you could have better luck? Is that?
I think so, yeah. I felt like I needed new friends and a new everything. Everything felt, I had been there my whole life and I was just bored, and
Yeah.
I really wanted to I had been making music since I was super young, but I didn't really have a lot of support doing that in LA, just from like family and stuff. So I was like, if I just move, then I was living with my parents in LA, so everyone knew what I was doing. If I was like, I'm going to the studio today, it was like, that's what you do for a living? Like, cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I move to New York, no one will know what I'm doing. I can like make all new friends, because I feel like I just needed new people around me, new energy. I need to like start fresh and kind of like find myself. And in a way, New York was terrible for me because I almost like ruined my life there, just in terms of like these guys I dated, or like my friends who ended up being worse there, and just their bad influences. And it was just like a lot. Living in New York is crazy. Like, it's wild. I mean, it's New York City. It's insane. So I was definitely, it was an experience for sure. But a lot of those things that happen in New York are what I write my songs about and are a part of me like growing up. So it was an amazing experience, but also crazy.
I think a lot of people encounter that when they're growing up, or they're trying to, especially at your age, where you're trying to define yourself. You're not a teenager anymore. You're not a little girl anymore. You are, you're trying to become an adult, and you're trying to, establish your identity. And when the people around you kind of still see you as whatever it is they see you, and it's not what what you're trying to accomplish, you kind of have to lift yourself up, put yourself somewhere where people don't have any preconceived ideas about who you are or what you are.
Yeah, 100%.
And do you think New York made the music that you're writing and performing a bit edgier than it may have been had you like stuck around in LA?
I don't even know if I would have gone. It was hard for me to pursue music in LA for some reason. I felt so like judged by everyone I knew, and like felt like my family didn't want me to do it. I feel like I needed to move away to go be able to just like, I had like jobs in New York and stuff because I couldn't afford to just live there and make music in the beginning. It's so expensive, you have to pay rent. I got fired from every job I had there, but it was like a nice attempt,
What was the worst job you had to take in New York?
I was an assistant for someone, like a personal assistant.
Okay.
It was not my cup of tea. I was very bad at it. And I also worked for a startup. I got fired from that too, because everyone was like, we know you're just like in the studio, like doing songs. And I would like have, I would have a show at Soho House or these little venues and like promote it to everyone. They'd be like, you are clearly, your head is somewhere else.
Right, yeah, right.
And I was like, yep, correct. So I think I needed to like run away and like start over to just not, I was like scared in LA, I feel like. I didn't feel, there's just so much of it, that I was like, I don't want to be here. I just want to like, New York, there's obviously a music scene too, but it felt different, and I just wanted to like run away for a bit,
So,
find myself.
As someone else who might be watching the interview and wondering how to get ahead or get a big break as things are going for you right now, what would you say, was there one important thing that you did, or one important thing that had to happen in order for you to get to kind of this level of exposure where a record label's interested, and now you're on tour? What was there any sort of linchpin or something like that needed to
I would
happen?
say it was definitely like 10 Things I Hate About You opened a lot of doors for me. I had other really cool moments before this song, like my song F Up the Friendship. I thought that was really special when I wrote it, and I like would DM creators throughout the whole pandemic being like, hey, will you use my sound on TikTok? Like, I'll repost you, So like I had some viral moments here and there, and like songs kind of like blow up on the internet. 10 Things I Hate About You was to another level, of course, like just in terms of streaming, it really took off. I'm so far off from your question now, but I'm like, wait, what was your question again? Sorry.
Well, it sounds like, you are giving me an answer, whereas like, it felt like you just finally hit the right song.
Yeah, right. Hit the right song, and just never like, talking to someone who's watching this, never give up. Like, keep putting out music you love, and like send it to people, knock down doors, don't take no for an answer, just like I was like shameless. I'd be like, hey, like, will you like listen to my song, playlist me, just like get yourself out there and don't be afraid, and don't take no, and just don't like care what anyone thinks. I feel like that's the best advice, because I cared for a really long time and I didn't get anywhere when I did care.
I love the word shameless, because like, again, like just reading about like how you've gotten this far, you weren't afraid to like share your music with other people. Like, hey, you know, as you mentioned, like, hey, can we collab? Can we do this? Can you use my sounds? And you know, like I think anybody who might not have the same kind of confidence would be real wary about that, or just not want to do that because they're not quite sure of themselves, where I think you had that sureness kind of going into it, or at least you built it up.
Quickly. Over many years. It actually took really long. Like, I in school was so shy that I would get doctor's notes to get me out of getting called on in class, because I couldn't even speak in front of people. I had zero confidence.
Yeah.
So I think just after so many years of like, but when I would get home in my studio, I'd be dancing, jumping off the walls, screaming, singing in front of my family. Like, it was in me, but I was so scared to like do it in front of people. And like, I like got therapy. Like, it was just, my whole life I like battled with being so shy. Like, I couldn't even, people would be like, say your name, like scream it. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. Meanwhile, now I run on stage, I'm like, what's up? Like, right. I feel like a different person now. And I think it was maybe just being like bottled inside for so many years. And then one day I was like, this is what I want to do. And I'm not going to let my like brain like, and this like fear stop me. And then I don't know. It definitely took a long time, but now I've overcome it.
Yeah. And I love that. And you're going to be performing for 1,000 people, over 1,000 people. I'm not sure how many people fit into the Warfield, but it's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
And I know you're going to tear it up tonight. But quickly, I do want to, I wanted to bring this up. First of all, my niece is a very big fan. She was one of the first people to tell me about you.
Oh my God, really?
And
tell her I say thank you.
I totally will.
Okay.
And as she was telling me about, about 10 things I hate about you, I asked her, I'm like, well, are you seeing anybody right now? And she's like, I'm just not really interested in any boys right now. Any of the guys that are my age, like I think you're probably around the same. She's in her 20s, mid-20s, and she's pretty much done with guys. Not that she's going to date girls or anything, but she's like, you know what? I just don't care about men right now. They're all horrible, and like all the guys my age really don't have their S together.
Okay.
So your thoughts on that? Why don't men in their 20s have their S together?
It seems like as they grow up, they get like more immature. It's weird. Like, I don't know. I wish I had like an answer for her, but tell her she's not alone. And like, I would be like, okay, why don't I try dating someone older? But like, they're still like a 2-year-old, you know? So some guys just don't get it together until very late. I swear, like a lot of these guys don't even settle until they're like 45.
Yeah.
So she's not alone.
That's what she said. She's like, I think I might date an older guy, like meaning like in their 30s.
Right. Yeah.
Or like, she's like, well, maybe I'll just kind of hold off. I got some career things I want to do. I got
Tell
some
her
other
that's
things.
the move, for sure.
She's like, I got some other things I want to accomplish. And then maybe later, when the guys sort of catch up to me, then, you know, I'll be much more willing to, you know, put up with the BS.
Yeah.
If there is some.
I
like,
support that, tell her.
I will totally let her
Find
know
yourself,
that.
and then the guy will come.
There you go. Those are excellent words. I think it's a beautiful thing. All right, Leah Kate, everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was so much fun.
Thank you. So fun.